So you're wondering if pharmacy school is the right choice for you. Well, there's a couple things that you have to think about. First of all, number one, more than any kind of other academic things, you have to know that you're a people person. You have to be a people person, because 90% of the time when pharmacists get out of school, they work with people in some sense, whether it be people in a retail setting, patients in a hospital, other pharmacy school students, if you're teaching. Pretty much almost every field that every pathway that you can take deals with people in some way or sense. So you have to be a people person. You have to like being around people, and you have to enjoy helping them, because that's really what being a pharmacist is all about, is helping people in some way. So that's number one. If you're not a people person, then pharmacy school and being a pharmacist is definitely not for you. Number two, you have to be good in math and science, or you're not going to make it through school. Science more so than math. You have to be able to do basic calculus in order to get into pharmacy school. Once you're in pharmacy school, basic algebra will be okay, but you have to be able to do mental math pretty well. I mean, I use a calculator a lot just to double check myself, but you have to be able to do the mental math a lot of the time. It just makes it easier. Science, you have to be good in chemistry, because that's what you're going to live and breathe when you're in school for most of the time, until you get to the more practical applications of pharmacy. But you have to be good in chemistry, or you're not going to make it through school, and you're not going to understand the drugs when you're learning about them, which is important. So that's number one. And number two. Number three, you have to spend some time in a pharmacy. Get a job at your local pharmacy of your choice, whether it be one of the big, huge chain retail stores, a little independent, a hospital pharmacy. Get a job in a pharmacy working as a technician before you get into pharmacy school, because that is going to tell you, if you like what most pharmacists do or not. 70% of all pharmacy students will graduate and go into a retail setting. So CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, independent stores. That's where 70% of all graduating students will end up. Another 13 to 15% will end up in hospitals, working in the hospitals in the basement. So get a job in one of those settings. That will tell you if it's something you want to be doing for the rest of your life. Don't kid yourself with the pretty pictures they paint in pharmacy school. They're nice, and they do happen, but not very often. And chances are that you're probably not going to end up with that pretty perfect ideal job that they talk about in school. So be ready to be working in a retail pharmacy or a hospital pharmacy, because most likely that's where you're going to end up after school. There is nothing wrong with working in them. You can get a lot of personal satisfaction out of working there if you enjoy it. You have to really, really love being a pharmacist in order to make it worth it. Number four, do not go into pharmacy school for the money, because A, you'll be miserable, because you won't actually love your job, and you'll be just doing it for a paycheck. You could do something else for a paycheck and be just as miserable. Don't go through pharmacy school and borrow $100,000 in student loans just to be miserable. And two, the shortage of pharmacists is no longer there. That's a thing of the past. So the paycheck is probably going to go down. Either that, or as inflation happens, you're not going to get pay raises. So don't go in it thinking, I'm going to make so much money, because chances are in 10 to 15 years, the salary of a pharmacist is probably going to go down. So make sure that you want to be a pharmacist. You have to do it because you love the job, not because you want the paycheck. That is the number one way to become a miserable pharmacist. 5, you have to be able to multitask. You have to be able to do more than one thing at a time, and you have to be able to take the stress of multitasking. If you can't multitask, or if the least bit of stress freaks you out, pharmacy school is not for you. Pharmacy school and being a pharmacist. Pharmacy school requires a lot of multitasking, a lot of late nights, a lot of studying, a lot of work put into it. And then being a pharmacist requires you to multitask, and you have to deal with a lot of stress because you're dealing with people that are sick, that are upset because they can't get their medicines immediately. You have to be able to breathe, calm down, and deal with the stress. 6, if you are a good problem solver and you're good at diffusing situations, then being a pharmacist might be for you, because that's what you do a lot of the times. You don't just sit there and count pills. That's what our technicians do most of the time, is they count the pills. Besides checking over each order, you have to be able and ready to solve problems that happen, and you have to be ready and able to diffuse situations that are going on at the pharmacy. You have to be able to logically figure out what went wrong, where it went wrong, and you have to handle the situation correctly, because somebody's going to come to you one day and say, you gave me the wrong medication. Unfortunately, we don't want that to happen, but humans being humans, we do make mistakes. And somebody's going to come to you and they're going to say, you gave me the wrong medication. And even if it wasn't you personally that did it, even if it was just your partner that works with you on your off days, you have to be able to figure out when it was done, where it went wrong, and how to fix it. And you have to calmly handle the situation so the patient doesn't get upset and irritated. So if you're good at that kind of thing, then being a pharmacist you would be able to be a good pharmacist. If you can't handle it, if you tend to yell, and if you're confrontational, then you're not going to be a very good pharmacist. You're going to be a very angry pharmacist. And there are a lot of angry pharmacists, but it's better to be a calm, happy pharmacist than an angry pharmacist, because your patients trust you more. And that is about it. Those are the really, really important things to know before going to pharmacy school. Don't get 5 years into pharmacy school and realize that you don't really care for it, because at that point you've already borrowed so much money that it's not worth it to turn back. So be sure that you want to be a pharmacist before you go to pharmacy school. That's about it. Okay, see you guys later. Bye.